Most every culture has had a method of making the hand stronger. We know that the hand is fragile, and if not properly trained or protected, it will break in combat. The purpose of reinforcing the hand is to deliver a more concentrated blow through a smaller, harder surface area. The added weight also increases the velocity of the blow. Cultures from the early Greek and Romans used the cestus, Indian had the vajra mushti, and of course the Japanese had the teko, a modified horse stirrup that was concealed and used in a devastating manner like modern-day brass knuckles would. In World War II, we saw brass knuckles developed. They were also attached to blades and used as a combat fighting tool in raiding parties during trench warfare. Today, the most common methods used to strengthen the hand and the fist are brass knuckles. Everybody has seen these things. Just a brass piece, fits right over the hand, fits into the palm. You can get these custom made. You can find these in a variety of places, catalogs, internet, a whole bit. Something as simple as a fist pack, which is a roll of quarters. This is a $10 roll of quarters just tucked in the hand. Again, the hand would have, since the knuckles are not protected, you would have to condition your fist a little bit more than you normally would when you're using something like a brass knuckles, which obviously is replacing the surface area with the hardened steel. And then sap gloves. This is lead shot filled in these gloves. Again, these are very inconspicuous and innocuous. Okay, if you train in a method that teaches you to use a closed fist, you have two choices. Arm yourself with these types of weapons or spend your time conditioning your fists. We're going to start with techniques from a static position using a fist pack or a brass knuckle. We don't talk too much about punching until now. We can do volumes on bare knuckle boxing, but again, the reason why we don't is because you need to condition or protect the fist. Now, in the olden days, if you're using brass knuckles, especially when we're talking about Western cultures like the United States and Great Britain, where boxing is the primary form of self-defense and combat sport, it's easy to see how these things came into emergence. So instead of using standard type of boxing techniques where you're thinking about speed and scoring points, you need to just open him up in a way that delivers as much power as possible. And when you would be using this type of weapon in the street, you want to deliver power. Okay, you're not worried about scoring points, making the judges look good. It is just opening him up in a way that allows you to follow up and creates the greatest opening so you can cause the much damage and let the weapon do the work. So in order to do this, again, very simple, very intuitive, you can see that this is actually maybe a little bit too large for my hand because it spreads out my knuckles a little bit, but you're just going to slide your fingers in all the way into just the first knuckle, curl it in the base into the palm, and there you go. Tuck the thumb underneath, and that's it. So we're going to start with a rising jab. We'd have a beef. He would approach me again from a punching situation. This lead hand is just rising up. Just rises up. And all I really want to do is just get that reaction out of him. So from a resting position, we're not in a boxing stance. This is street fighting. So we would be approached and just smack straight up into his chin. All I really want to do, very similar to what we did with the finger jab, now we're just snapping it up, hitting with the front two knuckles. If we catch him, great, no problem. Typical reaction is for him to move his head back. He moves his head back, now that's going to set us up for a reverse punch. So we lead with speed, follow with power. He's walking into me, snap. Okay. Now we'll just set him up for a reverse punch. So again, that jab is just going to come from wherever the hand is and just drive straight up. It's a rising jab as opposed to straight jab, okay, which is typical what you would see and we would practice. We can't start out of a stance. Okay? From this, you wouldn't. Once you start out of a stance, you might as well either be leaving or attacking. Okay, you're indicating your intentions. Okay, this wouldn't be done this way. So, from here, just snap straight up. Now we're going to follow with that reverse punch. And the reverse punch is just very simple, similar reverse punch or right cross is what we endorse for this type of follow-up. Now we use what we call a double hip whip method. It was taught by Shito-ryu karate great Kimura, not the judo Kimura, and also by World War II close combat expert Charlie Nelson. He advocated using the double hip whip. Okay, and this is all about how we can generate as much power from our hips and much force right through this hand. Kimura was very astute, and he really looked at, when he broke down punching, he looked for in the world where you could generate the most power with a punch, and he turned to baseball. And really, the throw, and this again, this doesn't have too much. This doesn't have too much application in combat sports because there's jockeying and you don't have time to deliver the throw or deliver that type of double hip whip punch. But if you were smashing where you can open them up and move into them, no problem. So we're going to do this in two phases. First, you're going to stand like you were on a pitcher's mound. Okay? Standing straight, perpendicular to your target. Now you're just going to step and let the hand, from wherever it is, find the target. And just let your body move it. And just like you were throwing, and I'd rather you think of throwing than punching. So you're going to be from a relaxed, ready position. You would step and bang, snap it in, rear foot throws. Just like you were throwing off a pitcher's mound. As you get more comfortable, you're just going to start to tighten that up. So if we're combining that rising jab with bang, with the reverse punch, that's it. So here, I just get him, he puts his hands up, whatever. I mean, he's just just to cover your face, bang. Okay, you're just smashing through, let the weapon do the work. Doesn't matter if, you're wearing the leather sap gloves, the lead-filled sap gloves, or the fist pack, same motion. It just depends on what manner you're going to be protecting your hands. Okay, the next punch is going to be our lead hook punch. Now, most hook punches are taught with the fist and the hand this way, which is fine when you're wearing a glove. Okay, but from bare knuckle days, if I'm hitting like this, and most people try this, and what they discover is when you start sparring and you're using the sparring gear or the grappling gloves, your fingers start getting pulled. Unless your hand is wrapped, they're still going to get dislocated and it's still going to hurt. So, instead of turning it this way, let your hand turn over. So you're making contact with these two knuckles. Okay, keep it tight, bang. It's going to be very difficult for you to keep it in a nice little arc, but let it come out. That's going to be your adrenaline is not going to allow you to make these very small, movements. Okay, if anyone, I don't remember, years ago, I was going to date us, but Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis press conference where they got into an argument and Tyson actually wound up biting Lewis in the thigh. But he wasn't. These guys are fighting, and they're professional fighters, and they were swinging haymakers, try to rip the other guy's head off. That's what's going to happen. It's not going to be sport. So this lead hook comes around, and you can see it fits. Once this hand turns, power generates still from the hip. If you sat there and just swung your arm without any, just leaving it dead, and I just needed to swing my arm, and you generate it from, that's the kind of body motion that you're going to need to put behind it. So this lead hook, bang, straight in. You can see it kind of fits in the nooks and crannies, coming into the temple, coming into the head, coming into the face, side of the neck. Okay, any place above the head. Again, same works for the rear. Turning the knuckles over, driving them into the cheek, into the teeth, into the side of the neck, driving them into the temple. Okay, let that come over and let it bang. Let the elbow come up. Let the elbow come up. and just let it hook and let your knuckles find their target. Next punch is going to be the reverse uppercut. Similar to the that rising jab, but it's going to swing a little bit more. Okay, this is a little unusual, but it was a common strike in bare knuckle boxing days. Okay, with bare knuckle, your hands depend on getting your knuckles to the target. Coming up in this manner, it's a little bit more difficult. A little bit more difficult than just swinging it straight up. Done with the rear hand, you would just literally wind it up and let it come up into the target. With the knucks, it's going to just scrape up the chin. So you'd be 1, 2. I hit him, he bends over, driving him up. So you kick, again with the knucks, the knuckle dusters, with the sap gloves, even the fist pack, all good stuff. All good stuff. So we're going to start now with this lead back fist. And it can either come out straight, okay, or come out over the top. All right. It travels very similar to the edge of hand. Okay, where we had the horizontal edge of hand and then the vertical edge of hand. So you got the horizontal back fist and the vertical back fist. Okay, contact is made with the back of the two knuckles. Again, this is martial arts karate 101. It is this done either as a snapping technique or a driving or a whipping technique. So it'd be snapping or whipping. So if I snapped and stunned them and then ripped them apart. Okay, when using a single weapon, as I said before, keep it in your rear hand. You want your target to hit its mark with as much power as possible. And in addition, you want to protect the weapon. So, people talk about, like we mentioned before in Module 9, people losing the weapon or take control of the weapon. If that weapon's in the rear hand and you're fighting like we've been trained to fight, no one's going to do anything to you. Next are just adapting some of the combinations with using the sap gloves, or even it could be used with the fist pack as well. First is going to be the front whip kick, finger dart, tiger claw, reverse punch. Okay, so he's going to move in whip kick, tiger claw, edge of hand, reverse punch. Okay. See, I always get tired. I always think I can't not use an edge of hand. Okay. Cannot use an edge of hand. So we'll blade, finger dart, whip kick, okay, tiger claw, reverse punch. Okay. Okay, now we're hitting to the head, hitting to the body. Again, the tiger claw, the fist, they're all interchangeable. Doesn't matter. And these are combinations that you'd be playing around with yourself. If you're boxing, you're used to punching, use these, you would use these things and use them in combination with what you already know. So next combination is going to be this short edge of hand, long edge of hand, reverse uppercut. So in here, and moving it, and again. Next combination is going to be what we do, a lead slap, which is just going to come from anywhere on the body. You would slap, edge of hand, and then we're going to rear hook punch, turning it over. Again, just working those combinations and just modifying them a bit to work with your tools. So this lead slap, and I mean, this would be a great opening technique. We're here, then the hand just comes from everywhere. let your body do its thing. This is all I care about. His hands come up, hack, hack, over and down. From this angle, slap, hack, hack, even holding it, bang, and coming in. Now, similar combinations, modified again with these SAP gloves. It's going to be a rising punch, okay, lead hammer fist, reverse punch. So the hammer fist can come down or across like the edge of hand. So from here be okay, with little regard to what he's doing, because once you start attacking and he starts covering, you're just taking him apart piece by piece. Next combination, lead back fist, rear hook punch, front kick, rising uppercut. So, from this angle. Next combination, finger dart, lead hook, reverse punch, rear hook. Moves in. Yeah, you get carried away. But again, you get the idea. You know, moving, working those combinations in, practicing. What you're going to do in the instructional portion is we're going to break down the punches. You're going to be able to practice them and then work them into your combinations. The Uwara stick is an old jiu-jitsu tool. It has gotten some new re-emergence. This is a cold steel model. I mean, it can also be, obviously it can be used as a fist pack, but the protrusions on the end allow you to focus and concentrate your power in special areas of the body. I mean, people get a little bit too hokey with this when they start doing some of the, some of the joint locks and the holds and things like that. It's been complicated by, dojos and martial arts instructors and tactical instructors alike. The tool is designed as an impact weapon to concentrate power to vital target areas. So really, you would use it just like you would any other weapon, protected in your rear hand. You'd be finger tarting, edge of hand, bang, stabbing, hitting them in the ribs, hitting them in the side of the neck, hitting them in the head. Look, poor Pete's even already just wincing. All right, it's the idea of just getting hit with this thing sticks. Okay, grips in, it fits in nice. Locking, so obviously moving it in around the body, into the ribs, into the midsection, working close in range, into the testicles, into the thighs, into the shins. It's just a nasty thing. It's like an uber noogie. You're really just driving this thing in, and, it's awful. It's awful. From a grappling point of view, I'm gouging him and I'm driving it into his throat. Okay, I'm driving it into his eye, into his temple. Even if we're locked up and I just start smashing and hammering on him, on his muscles and his shoulders, and it's endless. You're going to tenderize him. He's going to be miserable. Anywhere on the body, I need him to move from the rear. Okay, kidneys, spine. It's endless. Endless. And you'll be able to do this, and now the vital target areas are just making what you're doing just that much more nastier. Okay, and it's innocuous. If you're in law enforcement and you pull, you got to stop and you see this thing and you think, oh, this is part of my banister or something at home. It really doesn't look like much, but pay attention to these things. Driving up into the throat, used pinning him down and just literally smashing into his head, his temple, into the ribs, any place. On the ground, Whatever, get me in the mount. Okay, we're here, we fight out, I lock him up. Now I just start hammering and hammering. Yeah, it sucks, doesn't it? Okay, you're just mashing and hammering. Pissed. But that's what it does. And this is a little piece of wood. This thing is brilliant. Doesn't matter if he's down and he's got me in his guard. Okay, we're locked up here. He's got me in tight. I just start hammering and getting in his thighs and digging and digging and digging and digging and mashing him. Doesn't matter. He can car up. He can do whatever he wants to do. He pulls me into him. Okay, I'm still gonna start hammering and digging into his ribcage. Don't forget, we're on film. I gotta talk. Okay, so digging and hammering and just ripping into his ribcage. I mean, this thing is great. And there's really, is there a whole system behind it? Okay, no. You grab it and just start and put it in your hand. You're using the techniques you already learned. So it really doesn't make a difference. You're just letting the tool do the work. Working in here, I'm smashing in the side of his head, into his back. It's a good chance, again, we're in a fight. He doesn't really know what the heck that thing is, so there's going to be a sense of urgency that he's not even going to know. It's going to be like, am I getting stabbed? What is that thing? So any place on the body, working in here, bang. All right, grabbing and smashing. This thing is awesome. Awesome. It doesn't matter if this is, brass knuckles, anything with an edge to it, a hard edge to it. You can find it. We're locked up in here. We're driving it. We're using it as a pressure point tool to move his head out of the way, move his neck out of the way, get behind his ear. All that nice fun stuff just to harass him and make him miserable. Okay. So, the Uwharrie stick is fantastic, and there's really not much science to holding it. You're either thrusting it in, hooking it in, or driving it in. Okay, it either goes this way, or this way. Can't get any fancier, more complicated than that. You don't have to. And this one cost all of $15. Again, incidentally, this, contains no metal. Contains no metal. I'd rather see, this on the airport do not, allow list than my fancy hair gel. Okay, so that is the Uwharrie stick in a nutshell. Good thing, it's literally about 500 or 600 years old, maybe even older. These types of impact tools were widely used by both underworld and police alike. Some of the most popular of the time were the truncheon. This, ironically enough, is a modern-day tire thumper. Again, it's just a small club. This happens to have a little lead weight in it. This is designed modern-day application. Truckers would use this to check their tires, and beat cops would carry this shortened nightstick. Extremely useful and effective, as you're going to find out. The other is a blackjack, is a personal it's a personal favorite of mine and a friend. It's a spring with a lead weight welded to the end of it with a leather wrap to it. And this is a extremely useful tool. This is very popular and carried by a variety of police departments. And it's a shame because it's really, the force can be regulated and it can be, it's extremely effective. Last one is called the spring cache, which again looks like a Uwharrie stick or a fist pack, but when deployed, it's just a spring with a weight on the end of it. Experts have deemed this too vicious for police work. I seem to think they're right. It has a tendency to cut your target than to subdue them. So it's, it really would do a lot more damage before. The whole idea is stopping power. It doesn't have a tremendous amount of stopping power. It just inflicts a lot of pain and causes a lot of damage. But it was used at the time, and, we're going to take a look at how it was carried, concealed, and deployed. The great thing about the truncheon or the short length of the stick is that if you're law enforcement, getting in and out of your car, it's easy to carry and it's easy to conceal. It was later replaced by other weapons. There's a fact that primarily it was used as an impact tool, not a controlling tool. You can obviously swing the truncheon in this manner like we did before, but also it's a great single hand poking weapon, so where you could poke and move your target, move your subject around. I mean, you could virtually hit anywhere on the body and just get them to move and get them to react. I mean, if grabbed, you could still, if you grab it, you could still use other weapons effectively, and you're still on top of them in close quarters. Most of the times, again, you would be, in a situation where you're going to be interviewing somebody and they're going to be a little close to you. Okay? So from here, it would just be basic, using it like we did with the club. Again, same type of movements. So you would have your single hand you'll have your single hand thrust, and the shorter distance and the weight of this kind of opens up these types of maneuvers, as opposed to something a little longer where you're not going to be able to generate as much force just because if it's a longer and thinner weapon. So you could use your figure 4 draw from here, where you would smash and working up the body, driving it in, smashing the legs, striking down. You have your figure 4 draw. You can come in with the cross and the smashing down for less damaging blows. These blows would just be directed to the chest and to the body, to the rib cage. Coming in, smashing outside the thigh, inside the thigh. Again, being a little shorter, it allows you a little bit more mobility inside, and it doesn't get into getting tangled up like you normally would do when you're grappling with a stick. I mean, it was really good close-in weapon. Just driving up and just driving the pommel of the weapon up, the side of the weapon up, the tip of the weapon into the groin, smashing down on the insteps of the feet, smashing the shin, as I said before, smashing the thigh from the rear. It's all basic club stuff, but with the weight of it, hitting the kidneys, hitting the back of the knee, hitting the back of the thigh, back of the shoulder. Okay, all these would be used to soften the target to get him to move. The good thing, just with the weight and the size of it, is you're able to just get a lot more impact and a lot more effect when you're hitting these non-lethal target areas. Okay, if you're working with the weapon, we're talking about, if we're fighting in a combative situation here, smashing, driving it up, same draws that we did with our club. You have the figure 4, you have it on the side, holding it in this manner, where you could drive the pommel straight up, and then continue to move him down, working with it with the two-handed option as well. So this weapon is really excellent as a close range impact weapon. Okay, it was fantastic, and it could be, the weight of it can be used to, move him in any direction you really needed him to go. If I needed him bent over, bang, I bend him over and I move him. If I needed him down on the ground, he turned around, please. I'm just having some fun with it, smashing on the back of the thigh, on the back of the knee, driving him down. Wouldn't be used as any type of other, could use it as a choking or a maneuvering weapon, but that really wasn't its intention. Okay, its intention was to smack hands, smack forearms, get him to react, and hit non-lethal target areas where you're not causing, you're not really, causing that much damage. I mean, you're bruising, you're causing pain and discomfort, getting him to move, but you'd be able to attack these areas without having to attack the vital target areas. The problem with some of these other weapons that are used today, the PR-24s, those batons, the retractable batons, they're only meant for really one thing, and that's just really smacking somebody. Yeah, they like them because they're convenient, because they can, they can fit into your pocket, but for their effectiveness, they're very limited in what they can do. I mean, give me a good old nightstick any day. So this is just when we're doing some of the training and drills, we're going to work some specific combinations. So you just start working out with this thing. But as you said, it was a great tool that they used, and this is still around today. Still get your hands on this. Blackjack was a popular police tool, and during its time, it was incredibly effective. It's unfortunate that most departments have stopped using this tool officially. It can be it's fantastic. You can regulate the force with it, even just with a little bit of practice. It can be easily concealed. One of the practices that some of the forces did is they would take the blackjack and insert it into a glove. So when you're talking and it looks like you're having an issue, you're talking to a subject, and it's hey, there's a problem. Whoa, bang, bang. Next thing you know, he drops on the ground. And witnesses may look at it and say, well, he just hit him with his gloves. All right. He doesn't know that there's a weapon inside here. So it's versatile, and it really had its place in law enforcement history, as well as the other end of the spectrum. Okay, so it had its place in criminal history as well. As you said, it can be carried and concealed in any manner. Okay, you can use it, smack, bang. Okay, it is meant to be, in one motion, it's meant to be snapped, not swung. Okay, it has to be snapped and whipped so that this little spring can do its job. Just like we mentioned, just like the truncheon before, you can smack it to different parts of the body. He's grabbing my hand, I smack on his hand, I can just get him off of you. Okay? Here, hitting to the side of the neck, really just a weapon is just facilitating to your for the vital target areas, the same holds true. These types of weapons, though, allow you to use non-lethal force in a controlled manner. Using the weapon as more of like a yawara and driving it in to the body, into the throat, anywhere on the legs, the thighs, and the groin. Okay, of course, in the face and the neck and the head. Okay, but that's snapping motion. Okay. If you were in interview position and you would be holding it in your rear hand to protect it as he moved in, just getting anything to get him to flinch. You guys, by this point you should be figuring it out by now. Smashing down, hitting, snapping it to your target. Okay, coming in from across coming straight across in a vertical. Let me just get over here. Okay, just like an edge of hand, and that's what's great. If you were just moving and just smashing, there's no difference between using it like this and using an edge of hand. Zero. What makes these types of weapons work is when you're working in a complete system like you are now, is that you just drop a weapon in your hand and you're good to go. It doesn't make a difference. Okay, it's the same body motion, same function. I mean, everybody, when they get these things, they start tapping on their hand. Does it really hurt? Yeah, it hurts. Okay, it hurts a lot. But you can give them just a little tap. It's not going to do much, to a big smack, which would start breaking bones and worse. So, weapon, have the gloves where it would be concealed up here. It would just be smashed on the side of the temple, side of the head, side of the neck, even the ear. Having it concealed against your body, holding it. here, so it's back, I kick, bang. Okay, I'm grabbed, okay, or even arm, bear hug me more or less. Here, kidney, smashing the kidneys and the ribs while I'm working him. Okay, just making your job easier. Okay, that's all the weapons or tools. That's what they're there for. On the ground, getting the guard. Okay, good. Holding him, just smash, bang, bang. I mean, there's no science to it. There's no science. That snapping, whipping motion and protecting it is all the training and the science you need. Okay, smashing in the thighs, smashing in the body, smashing in the belly, kidneys. Any place you hit is going to cause damage and hurt him severely. Okay. Up. Arms folded. Okay. Here, my lead hand is forward. So I just snap. It just comes right from this position and just snaps into my target. Once this, moving, taking ground in those violent, convulsive motions. Same thing. This is no different than this. But I just have a weapon in my hand. And that's what, the system that you're learning, that's how these weapons would fit in. Okay, they would drop right in to what you're already doing. Spring kosh. Again, just a metal cylinder with the spring in it, weighted spring in it, snapped open, weight on the end, spring. Said before, too brutal for police work. It was eventually scrapped in place of weapons like the truncheon and the blackjack. The reason, again, is because where those will give you some blunt force trauma that could be controlled, this just literally, scraped and it caused just a lot of pain as opposed to a lot of stopping power and a little pain. So this weapon would be deployed, you would be carried, it would be, carried similar, just like we did with our, with our interview stances, and just like we did with the blackjack and the club and the knife, all the same holds, all the same conceals. So it'd be here. Just stay back, Pete, because I don't want to hear you. Not all like that. Thanks. Okay, you would come here, move them open, stop here, and then I just smash. Again, same snapping, whipping type motion that you would see when you were using the blackjack. Okay. Still works in conjunction with our regular, with our hand-to-hand techniques. So you'd be here, moving, keeping him off, keeping him moving, and then smashing and snapping and whipping. The one thing that the spring kosh would afford you was the distance. Okay, you've got a little bit longer. You can stay outside. You can snap. As an opening technique, you just saw drawing it up, coming from the rear, pressed against the thigh, snapping it over and across his face. Okay. Cutting, you'll see in the on the training dummy, or hitting it, it literally just splits it and explodes it. It'll cause damage on the legs, more like a rattan stick or a whip. Okay. Then it would just be stinging, searing pain. They're still around. It's funny because I see, they give weapons reviews for things, and some people are like, "Oh, I have no idea what this is used for," or it's no good because you're thinking of swinging it around. Well, no, it works. Snapping motion, finger dart, snap. Keeping him, people were trying to get to my body and grabbing me, staying out here, keeping him pinned off me and just snapping and whipping him. obviously used like a Yawara stick or a fist pack. You see a lot of these have a lot of, very, similar functions. Okay? Very similar functions. And they're all meant to be used with the hand-to-hand methods that you already know. So, these three weapons that we just, as far as impact weapons, were some of the most popular ones used at the time and during the heyday of hand-to-hand combat. Again, used by both, good guys and bad guys. Next will be deadly weapons and assassination techniques. These are just a few worth mentioning. All are still used today in dispatching of humans, and we should probably touch on them. To say that there's a system of using these items is not so much the case as there's a method to use them. If you're in law enforcement, you should be aware of their existence. And even if you're looking to defend yourself, you should be aware that these types of things are out there. First one that we're going to look at is the straight razor. Again, held in the hand with the hook against the thumb, so you would open it all the way up, put it against your thumb, grip it where your index finger came across the razor. Obviously, there's no razor in here, but this makes sure that that this is locked in place. You can see this was a weapon for obvious reasons because it's a primary grooming implement of every man in the Western world. Today, if you're walking around with it, you'll probably get some looks, but back in those days, it's not uncommon. It would be typically you use whatever's around you as the tool of the day. So the straight razor was extremely popular. Again, held like this, not like this, like you would assume to believe. Okay, this is not extremely secure. It's only going against the thumb or the hand, and it could be, this would easily collapse in your thumb if you any pressure. But in the fist, with it hooked against the inside of the thumb, you would slash. You could grab him and slash him. Okay, holding and pinning him down and working it. You can see his face. There's again no razor in here. Even using the edge as a fist pack, depending on the weight. I wouldn't use this one. I got this one for free. It was like it's plastic. But driving in, slashing up, okay, but it's really not meant to go unless you just wanted to scare somebody. Is just coming across their midsection, because this, like box cutters, don't have that much stopping power. Okay, so in a scenario where you would be, fighting, you would have to soften him with blows in order to get to this position. Okay. From the rear, for obvious reasons, you would hold him up, across, and pull. Okay. Face, neck, hip check, just like we were doing our rear strangles, just like we're doing our takedowns, come across and pull. For even, you would be able to lock it in place with another grip with the thumb and holding onto the finger and coming across this way, reaching deep across. Okay? If he was going to be in a chair, Raj, can you use that chair for a second? Around. And you would come up behind him, you would use the chair as leverage against him, okay, which is a very popular way of dispatching of somebody. Okay, from the side, stand up, sit. Again, you'll see the pressure of the chair moving him back and then pulling him over. Okay, this always locked into position and throw. This particular ice pick I picked up for $3. It's a very nice, fist pack as well, or Yawara stick. Think about what it's made for. Okay, it's made for just digging and plunging into ice. Okay, so it's very sturdy. Doesn't have combat approval, but it's done its bit of business in the world. From everyone from, every crime family that has, probably set foot on American soil. So one of the ways, obviously using this as just a stabbing weapon, just like we would do in, fighting with it and just moving in it. One of the ways you have to either be plunging it into your target or you would stick it in them and rotate it around. So you've got a point of entry that is here, and then you're moving it around into your target. So creating a larger field of damage. Obviously to the front, fine. To the rear, kidneys, spine, okay? Coming into, opening up into the throat, into the temple. In our seated target situation, sorry we don't have the car. Pete would be in the passenger side, a la Goodfellas, but holding him, pinning against here, and then driving it into the temple or into the throat. Okay, just the soft areas of the body or the brain. Again, the neck and the head. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. It doesn't have to be more messy than that. And this would just go, right in and do its work. Again, you would crank it, shake and bake, whatever terminology you want to call it. And it would, again, there's not a lot of technique. Doesn't have to be. But if you're in law enforcement, again, be aware of these things. They still exist. People still do them. Again, this is a $3 tool. Okay, it doesn't have a sexy name to it, just an ice pick. Picked it up at Chef Central. All right, so both the razor and the ice pick were common household items, especially before before refrigeration. Everybody had one of these in their house. Everyone who was getting an ice delivery anyway. So it was readily available. It was the most common weapon in Russia, an axe. It's the most popular murder weapon. England, no firearms. Okay, we use edge weapons. That's it. It's whatever's around at the time. You get pretty resourceful in doing what you're doing, and they're still around today.